Suranjana Thakur, and right from being authentic to showing up for herself to learn. Welcome to the very first episode of She Leads, She Inspires by Mirae Asset Investment Managers, India. This is more than a podcast. It's a platform, a celebration, and a conversation that matters. I am Lisa Pallavi Barbora, author of Money and Her and founder of moneypuzzle.in, and I'll be your host for this series. We truly look forward to bringing you honest conversations and inspiring leadership journeys in every episode. Across Mirae Asset Group companies in India, there are remarkable women shaping strategy, building teams, driving growth, and redefining leadership in their own way. Yet behind every designation is a journey of choices made, challenges faced, doubts overcome, vulnerability, and moments of quiet strength. Through this series, we spotlight those journeys. Each episode brings you into a candid conversation with women leaders from across Mirae Asset Group. It's not just about success, but about the real stories behind it. The balance between personal and professional worlds, the lessons in money management and mindset, and the decisions that shaped who they are today. Today we have with us Ms. Suranjana Thakur, Head of Distribution and Strategic Alliances with over 17 years of experience, including 15 in the mutual fund industry. She brings deep expertise across asset management, banking, wealth, and business development. When we hear stories that sound like ours, we begin to believe what's possible for us. We begin to leave the excuses behind. So whether you are an early career professional, an aspiring leader, or someone navigating your own path, we hope these conversations bring forth meaningful insight, perspective, and confidence. Because when one woman leads, many are inspired. Let's get started. Hi, Suranjana.
Hi.
It's so great to be doing this, you know. As I was talking earlier in the introduction, it's an important conversation to have. And I'm so happy to be having this with you in the very first episode.
I'm equally excited about it.
That's great. And my excitement is also because we are country cousins from Assam. And we are wearing black jackets.
Yeah, almost twinning.
Well, what we are going to do, of course, the conversation will head into your professional journey, but let's begin at the very start. You were studying genetics and biomedicine, but you landed up in finance. Poles apart. So this, this stark difference in what you were kind of preparing yourself to do versus where you landed. Did you feel out of place to begin with, at least in the world of finance?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty interesting story, actually. So if you see where I started, I mean, in school, actually, I used to be equally interested in economics and biology. But what happened is, over a period, I got very good grades in bio. And you know how it was that if you get good grades there, you're expected to be a doctor, right? So that was a natural thing, expectation out of parents, out of teachers, that you'll be a doctor. So but I was very clear right in the beginning that I didn't want to be a doctor, but I was very, very interested in genetics. So, genetics at that point in time was just evolving as a, thing which was new in India, probably, which is not enough research was done in this space. And I thought, why not get into research in this? And it so happened that I landed in one of the premier institutes of Delhi University, and I was very clear that I'll pursue this career.
Right.
But what happened is, incidentally, there was a professor of ours who was, a well-wisher, who actually got some of us good students together and said that, at that point in time, that, if you want to go abroad, then get into research.
Okay.
In India, it may have limitations. And, we were at very impressionable age. So I think I got influenced by that thought. And I thought that at that point, I was not very sure if I could go abroad. And I wanted to be in India. So I thought, okay, maybe I should think differently. And it so happened that I had two flatmates who were doing economics honors, and I was already interested in economics, and we all decided to actually go ahead with an MBA, which was obviously that time the next best thing to do. And what I didn't plan was probably landing up doing an MBA in finance and in a finance school. That is something I absolutely did not plan. But it so happened that when I started studying there, I picked up the subjects quite easily. And I think it was a joke, actually. A friend of mine who used to teach a bunch of us the subjects which we were not familiar with happened to regularly get better grades than him. So I used to keep pulling my leg over it but I think it just did happen with a lot of ease. And I think when I finally landed a job, I started as a banker in my career. And I will tell you an interesting thing, that I started in the helm of the global financial crisis. So when you start off your career in the eye of the storm, there is that much time to think, whether you're in the right place, wrong place, etc. It was about survival. But what I realized over a period is that you don't really directly bring in your studies to the work. What you learn in your work is what you learn on the job. And I think that's the journey which led me to believe that I was in the right place and that I wanted to pursue this. And over a period, it only built conviction. When I finally wanted to get into the asset management side, I was very clear that this is something I'm loving it. So I think for me, I was not so out of place right from the beginning.
Right. I think also you're maybe a natural learner. The switch, as you said, was not very difficult for you. Nothing to compare genetics and finance, but maybe you're a natural learner and, you can adapt to different environments easy. So that might help as well.
Possibly also, when you're at that age, I think a lot of us make different decisions during that career progression, right? So I think it's like you may end up being in a place which you didn't decide, but on hindsight, it's actually a great place you've landed. So I think that's a thing which happens over a period.
I think often that's the way that, the real successes actually happen. You come across something. An opportunity.
When I look back, if there's anywhere else I'd rather be, I feel that I'm in the right place for myself.
Well, that's great because, your career still has a couple of decades at least to go. So that's great. And at Mirai now, you're leading 140, 150 people, which is, absolutely extraordinary. Do you enjoy your role as a leader? And is it intuitive for you? Or does it come naturally? Or do you have to, kind of conjure up some kind of strategy at other times? How do you see that?
See, I think leadership is something which nobody is born with being, having the skill set to be the leader. I think it all happens over a period. I feel that, for me, leadership may have not come naturally. What came to me naturally was connecting with people. I think I am a person who's always been a consultative leader. So for me, it's always been important to understand people. Understand what are their ambitions, what motivates them, what are the things which actually, drive them towards something. I feel once you get the pulse of another person, it's the goal becomes shared. When you're actually working towards a performance, you're actually working in complete sync because you're understanding the other person. So this is something I felt was very helpful for me. I also felt that, initially I used to, because I was so consultative, I used to sometimes find it difficult to be very decisive. It was like I would listen to everyone, and over the initial phase, it was difficult to make that concrete decision. But I realized it's very important that you may listen to everyone, but it's important to make a decision and then own that decision. I think that is a journey I had. And I feel to understand that listening intently and making decisions clearly are actually not correlated. They are actually quite in sync.
Okay.
But that is a realization which has come over a period.
Right.
So I think I've also evolved as a leader.
Yeah.
But I think people management, or rather dealing with people, is something that comes absolutely naturally to me.
So what I'm hearing is that maybe you had difficulty saying no sometimes.
Yes. Initially I did.
Yeah.
I still do maybe, but I feel that I'm much more clear on, like I said, the fact that I'm able to make clearer decisions now, and I'm confident that it's okay to have an opinion and stick to it.
Right.
You may listen to everyone, but you have to be clear about what you want to do. So that is something I've grown to learn.
Right. So inclusive but firm.
Yes.
Yeah. That sounds good. Also, like, coming to the whole idea of saying no. I recall when we were talking about your early career, there were you were in banking, as you said, and there are various aspects to banking, but somehow you came towards asset management. And I guess you would have had to say no to a few things to get to where you are. So in a career that, you visualize will span a few decades, how important do you think it is to say no at the right time, as well as kind of embracing the right opportunity?
Lisa, I think this is very important. I can say it's on hindsight, I have realized it's extremely important in navigating your career. So, like I said, I began with being a banker. While to each his own, I decided that was not my cup of tea. I decided that I wanted to be in asset management. I thought this was a more specialized role. I felt that the learning curve would be very steep for me, and which is where I saw an opportunity to grow myself.
Right.
And I think that clear decision, when I look back, I feel that was like something at a very young age, I was very clear about it. I also feel, over a period, I realized that it's also very important to get out of your comfort zone. I have seen that a lot of my colleagues or people in my team, sometimes when a very interesting opportunity comes up, but is not in their comfort zone, they don't want to move. But what I have seen is that, initially I used to work in a sales profile in Delhi.
Right.
And a few years down the line, there was an opportunity which came up in Bombay. I was sitting in a very comfortable spot in Delhi, and I used to love Delhi, and because I've studied there and all of that. So I was very reluctant to move. But back then, my boss and one of my mentors in my career, he really pushed me to come to Bombay. He said, you must make this decision because the world is very large out there. Go and grab what is yours. And I did push myself to come here. But, what I did make a very conscious decision was that I came into a sales role in Bombay, but I decided that I wanted to get into a business development or central alliances role quickly. And within a year, my boss, as he promised, he moved me into a role.
This is still banking. Sorry,
this is the asset management side.
You moved to asset management.
Yeah. So asset management, I moved within the first 2 years of my career.
Right.
But this was a sales profile that within asset management that I moved to Bombay.
Right.
But within that, I decided to then move into a central alliances role. What I did visualize at that point is that gives you access to all the decision makers or the key gatekeepers of the industry. So obviously, you get to learn much more. You also get to have a larger bird's eye view of the industry itself. So I knew that I could come back to sales at a later stage, but I knew I would come back in a more strategic role. And these are decisions which I consciously made. And I knew that I had to say no to an ongoing sales profile to get into a profile like this. And over a period, I have seen that the more I have let go of the past and looked at reinventing, the better the career path has been. So I think the agility is extremely important in building your career over a long term. And I think that's helped me so far, hoping that's how it works going forward as well.
And you're right. Sometimes we have to realize that these are conscious choices we are making, and I think not allow ourselves to just go with the flow.
Lisa, I feel they're mostly conscious choices. Sometimes it is unconsciously you're making the conscious choice, but usually in the career you make conscious choices. For whatever that you have, brewing in the background, probably that's what makes your decisions.
And I think especially when you're new to an industry or a career, that bulb of, am I making the right choice? What's the impact? What are the implications? That should be on more than switched off.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so you were in an industry, asset management, where and in a role actually of sales, being the distribution head, which is very visible. So visibility is important. Yet when I see you on various kind of platforms or in the media, I do see that there is authenticity there. So how do you kind of try and keep up the visibility and yet not let go of who you are and your authentic self?
Yeah, Lisa, to my mind, visibility has many layers. Visibility to me, like when I took up a role where I was taking care of a pan-India team about 4 years back, the first thought that had come to my mind was that, am I firstly visible to my team? It's very important to be available to people, to be visible, to listen, to know what they want. And that's the channel which will lead you to external people. So it was also very important for me that I was in an urgency to really go travel as much as possible and get to know people across the country. I knew that I could never be that person probably sitting in office and actually just being a strategist. So I think that is what I broadly thought was visibility. Over a period, I think there are many other paths which have come in, which is probably an addition, or probably the way the profile has been evolving, that lot more of the visibility which you are talking about. I take it as a part of the role, and I think it's very important to be authentic. And it's not about just pretending to be authentic. It's about what you feel. Like if you become a voice or an opinion maker in the industry over a period, you might as well be honest about what you feel. If you are, that journey of putting on things and just conjuring up what you want to say may not always fit well, because you may actually end up doing things which don't resonate with you, and you'll be unhappy with yourself, and therefore you will not be able to give it your best. So I think it's been important for me to stick to what I believe in. And when you do that, I think it comes across to other people. And I really view it as not just mediums of connecting with people like TV, etc. But I also feel that when you're talking to people, distributors, meeting across the country, you have to be honest about what you think. And sometimes hearing other people, you get to know exactly what you feel you want to convey.
So I love two things about what you said. Firstly, that from my perspective, visibility is something else. But for you internally, it's really first about being visible to your team and the people who you lead, and then anything else that follows.
Absolutely.
And of course, the need for authenticity, because how long can you not be your real self, right? Again, if you're thinking of career as something long-term and you want to position yourself in an industry, you have to at some stage show up as who you are, because otherwise how long will you sustain that?
I feel there's nothing to lose.
There's nothing to lose.
I'm building up something. I think it should build up on an honest foundation. And that's how it'll stay authentic probably long term.
Can you recall any instance, if you can, where it was really hard for you to be authentic? Anything, maybe in an industry event, maybe, in a market crash, you're talking to somebody, anything. Because obviously, sometimes you see it differently and the person standing in front of you sees it differently. So it's not really like you're putting up a front, but being authentic may work against you, in some instances, but you've still done that. Is there anything you can share with us?
It's actually the other way around. I'll tell you, like, I am a person by, it's not just about profession. In general, I find it very difficult to not be honest.
Okay.
So it is also to do with what you are able to do. This is not my skill set, so I will not be able to do it.
Right.
And when you are not able to put across that side, I think a lot of times, you end up being a little brutally honest.
Right.
And I've seen that it has happened, like what you were talking about in some event or some forum, where you end up calling out the hard truth, and you don't become the most popular person there, because you have called out something which is going wrong. And it is sometimes it may be that, wow, she identified this and said this, but a lot of times it may be like, she's talking against us. So that may not go very well. So sometimes I think it's happened the other way around for me, and I would think I would stick to being what I feel at that point. I would want that to be conveyed more than anything else.
You're also the youngest distribution head in the industry, is that right?
I don't know if that's accurate.
Okay, that's I got that from somewhere. And even if you're not, the youngest, you're probably one of the youngest. And that's, of course, it's worth a lot of accolades, but it's also a lot of work, especially if you're going to be so brutally honest and authentic all the time. It is a lot of work. And it also comes with its own responsibilities, because you're in a leadership position. You said earlier that you're a people's person. You like connecting with people. So in this entire context of what you do, the space you do it in, what is your people management philosophy? How do you show up for your team, for your larger team, in this kind of, complex context that you work in every day?
Yeah, see, I think one of the most important things about people management, and a lot of larger roles in organizations are actually 80% people management. I think people management, one of the biggest things is respect.
Okay.
I really believe that you will always get a diverse group of people as you grow in your career.
Right.
A lot of times people may have more experience than you, more number of years, varied experience, may come from different specializations. You would get a whole group of people to manage. If you're able to respect people, and also, like I said, listening intently to people, I think a lot of times people don't get heard. People don't get to tell their story.
Right.
It's probably one of the most important things I feel with a combination of respect is to understand and to put it in front of them. That, listen, I acknowledge that this is what you bring to the table, but this is what I also bring to. So let's understand each other and come to a point where we can work well together. And I think that's something that has worked so far beautifully with me. I hope this works out the same later as well. But I would say this actually is, again, something which I didn't thankfully learn at a later stage. This is something which I knew in the beginning itself. Because I think as a lot of times we are also, when we get larger responsibility, so you're already, thinking that what is it the best that I can do. My understanding was, if I am respectful towards people, listening to them, being able to create trust and credibility, that is what is going to take me a long way. If I start with this, directing people to do what I want them to do, I don't think in today's day and age that works.
So I think a little bit of this is linked to your authenticity philosophy as well. So you're not just authentic yourself, you try and allow others to be authentic as well, whoever you need, who's working with you or your team, etc. Because that's the only way, I suppose, it can function. That
I think unless you have personal connects with people, it's not easy to manage a diverse group of people. Obviously, sure. You will never be perfect always. You will make your mistakes. You will have the glitches. All of that will happen. But I have seen mostly sticking to what you believe in
Hmm.
will over a period only increase your credibility.
So now we're going to talk about something which is, slightly touchy, and uh, it um, uh, it doesn't get spoken about enough. So, in your professional journey, so you've been navigating the dynamics of age and gender, I would imagine, because knowing the asset management industry, it is a heavily male dominated industry, and there is a lot of impact that comes from senior leadership. Where there could be some kind of a age gap as far as you are concerned, even though you are a senior leader, but I'm really only talking about from an age perspective. Have there been moments where you've had to kind of work extra hard or proactively try to showcase what you bring to the table, not necessarily to your team, but to your peers who are perhaps outside your organization, the industry itself, or maybe to your seniors, or just to seek validation for the credibility that you have, and you seem like a very confident person, so I don't think the self-doubt is there, but sometimes it doesn't get matched by what other people see in you. Professionally, how did you navigate this kind of landscape, if you came across it, and how has it added to you in terms of whether it's your leadership capability or your ability to function and do the role that you've been hired to do?
In this industry, like you rightly said, we're not a natural fitment. So sometimes, yes, there is, sometimes you have to work doubly hard or do things or go that extra mile to say, I am relevant, I am doing my share. See, what happens is over a period, I've realized that, there's always going to be people who will be critical of you. There will always be people who will be having their own share of doubts and then also be talking about it.
Yeah.
I think in these journeys that we have, it's very, very important to cut out the noise. It's very important to stick to the basics. And I believe that when you are in roles where you have to, sort of be visible, do things to go reach out to people, one part is that you have to actually make sure that you are relevant. You upgrade yourself in terms of knowledge. You learn constantly over a period. So therefore, you become a person who is reliable. So when you are reliable, you probably don't have to, keep thinking how hard you're working. But if you keep on putting that effort consistently over a period, people are left with very few choices but to acknowledge that, yes, there is a reason you're here. But I think it is also to do with maybe, I feel that in not just our industry, but in our country, maybe a lot of people who were older to us, an older generation of women, a lot of them worked very hard to find their place. For people like us to be able to today have these opportunities in front of us, I think we are not so much in that journey of, putting up that fight. There are others who have done it for us, and therefore we are here. And we probably, when there is something that comes up and you put up your hand, there is an option available. And I think this industry is full of mentors, full of good wishers, full of people who are there to actually help you cut out the noise.
Okay.
And that's been my experience. And I would say I've been blessed with some of the best people I have worked with. And I will be honest that I've that energy I derive out of it, when somebody says, where somebody acknowledges what you bring to the table, it keeps me going.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. Make yourself reliable.
Yes.
Do the work you need to do,
Yes.
so that others know that you are reliable. And
Yes.
that makes you somewhat, maybe, I know you didn't use the word, but maybe indispensable, not just I'm not talking about the organization, but I'm talking about the industry as a whole, that, this is a person who contributes positively to the industry and to the growth of the industry.
Yeah, I believe, Lisa, that I think nobody, industry or company is indispensable. I believe that, if you work, hard work is the variable.
Right.
You bring that to the table and you bring that consistently. There is no way beyond a point people can ignore it. It's something I've seen over a period, and not just in my journey. I've seen in a lot of people's journey that give it your best shot, and then leave it. Things will happen.
Okay. Now let me ask you something. You said cut out the noise. So what is the loudest noise you've had to cut out?
Oh my God.
Tell us a little bit at least.
There's a lot of things I think would, there's so many things that you hear about yourself sometimes, which you feel that that person doesn't even know you. But has an opinion. And for what, or what is the reason, what is the trigger, you don't know.
You don't know.
But like I said, there will always be people doing that. So I don't think it's... there are so many more important things to pay attention to. I've seen that, over the last few years, things have been... so many things have been happening around me. I have not had the time to pay attention to that. And I'm not just talking about my journey. I've seen a lot of other women's journeys, especially in finance. There's enough and more, criticism or whatever. But I think you learn how to navigate through that.
Yeah, I think when the criticism becomes personal, away from the work you bring to table or, the outcomes you deliver, then that's definitely noise you can cut out.
Yes. No, like I said, I have had some of the best mentors in my life. And I derive a lot of energy from them.
That's great. So good to hear. Which brings me to my next question. As a woman leader, what would you say is your foremost responsibility towards other women around you who work in similar roles in your company, outside your company? Not just those who may be looking up to you, We started this conversation around leadership, etc. So, there will be people looking up to you, obviously. But also your peers, women who are senior. What do you think is really your responsibility, not as Suranjana, but as a woman leader? What is your responsibility?
So I think a very interesting question, and I'll spend a minute on what my thoughts are on this, because see, what happens is, I think, like I mentioned earlier, that a lot of women before us probably had to work very hard to be where they are, to reach a position of power. And that almost made them, sort of ready to go into war. So a lot of times these women actually stopped, they actually, their feminine side was left to the, on the back burner, and they became much more hardened in terms of like battle ready for everything. So they were really, toughened to a point that they were trying to act like the boys in the room only. So I think because of this, I have noticed a lot of people, or at least some people, who, once they reach a position of power, it becomes very difficult for them to be inclusive of other women who are growing or doing as well or better than them. I feel it is to not go into the negative side of this, I want to put it in a way that, a lot of times it's important that when you reach a position of power, you have to be available to people or women who deserve equal opportunities. It's actually important to look out for who would require your help, who would be looking out to you to actually sort of understand your journey and maybe derive some courage out of that. I feel this is a journey I've actually seen in setups where very senior women sitting in a meeting, essentially talking to your male colleague and being, really not making the conversation with you, which I find it absolutely counterintuitive actually.
Yeah.
It is like, why would you be doing that? But maybe there is a lot of reason that people end up doing this. But I strongly believe this is something, when you go to a position of power, you don't have to be nicer to women. You have to be, actually equipped to be able to give women equal opportunities. And you have to be open to that mindset that we keep saying, no, you should hire people smarter than you in the team. I believe you should be open to hiring smarter people, be it men or women in the team.
Yeah, it's so it's really interesting. What you were saying about sometimes when women are senior, there could be instances where they overlook somebody who's junior and also coming through that same kind of path. And it's important to recognize that she's probably, moving through the same hurdles. Times change, of course, but, some of those hurdles still exist. And that perhaps needs more eye contact and, better embrace than, the male colleague or the male counterpart. It does happen, and it's difficult. I find it very difficult when I'm talking to put things in this kind of gender context. But the reality is, it exists.
It exists.
It exists, and even now, it's awkward for us to even talk about it.
I know. I get completely awkward about it, but the fact is, it's real. It happens in front of you, and you wonder why. But I must say, obviously, this is a handful of women doing this. There are also others who are really making their efforts to be, judicious to everyone. But there would be some people who are doing this and at powerful positions. That's what makes me wonder that you're already you should be so secure of where you are, right?
Yeah, but as you said, we don't know the experiences that she has carried with her, and perhaps her fight has been a struggle that
has made them so hardened
brought
that
her
it's
to the point that she is at, and that's the whole thing. I feel that you spoke a little bit earlier about, leaving aside the feminism and becoming a bit more kind of hardened. Women have the advantage of bringing to table a softer side to their dealings with other people, to the work they do, etc., no matter what that work may be. It's just the nature of the gender. And I think that adds value. It does not take away.
Absolutely.
But the way perhaps a lot of the male-dominated industries were in the past, maybe the women were made to feel that it takes away.
Absolutely.
And so, you leave that behind then.
Absolutely.
And of course, it changes you. So one doesn't know the journey, but it's important to now recognize the benefits that women leaders can bring to table. And for women leaders, and for women leaders to share that benefit and to align their own leadership with women who are younger in the same way. I think that's important.
Absolutely.
And it's great that you are able to recognize it and acknowledge it and speak about it. That's important.
It's important.
Okay, let's get a little bit more personal now. You shared once that your parents sometimes worry about how much you work and, the hours. But you have a lot on your plate. And with all of that happening, how do you find ways to actually stay connected with your parents, with your family, and nurture those relationships as well? Because that's very important.
I think you should be fair to everything. I truly believe that sometimes you go through situations where both are extremely demanding. But I think I would be personally very unhappy if I was giving my 100% to one side and giving 50% to the other. I would give probably 100% at one point to both, or 80% at some point to both, and or 200% to both. So it goes in tandem for me. And I think it's very important that you are able to do that. It'll never be perfect, but my intent is never to just focus on one part and not pay attention to the other.
No, I understand. I get you. But it's hard to, you can't show, it's not possible to show up 100% in both places, obviously.
No, so what I'm trying to say is whatever I try to give in one side, I try to do with the other side as well. It could be 100, it could be 80, it could be 200.
Okay. I think it's, the work I do now is more flexible. So I can, control, I have more control over my time. But until a few years ago, I was still working, rather full time, and I had young kids. And the amount you have to stretch to accommodate, because that's what we do. As you said, you're trying to be there as much at both ends. Do you think we try and do too much as women?
No, I mean, see, while it sounds like, okay, perfect to do everything equally, it doesn't happen practically. But I think what I was trying to say, the intent is to be equally responsible, both sides. But I think a lot of times, there are situations where you're not able to give it your best. You're not available only. I travel extensively. There are times when I'm not in town and there's something urgent happening back home, and I might be full of anxiety, but I'm still doing something else. It happens. It's not something which is happening only once in a while. It can happen pretty regularly. But I feel important is that you're not always guilty. I think I've seen a lot of women, especially, there are people in my team I have seen who are, if a child especially, or is, not keeping well for some reason, and they're so broken that they're not able to be there, or they're not able to be here.
Exactly.
In a situation like this, it is very important to be able to reach out to them as a leader. I have seen this in instances with my own team, where I've seen that if you just assure them that you do what is okay with you, later on, I know you will come back and make up for it so much more that I don't even have to ask anything out of you. But when you have to be present somewhere else, be present somewhere else. And that has helped me, understand people better. And I've seen those people get attached to you over a long-term period. I think this is not something that you do consciously. It is just about being able to understand that, this is the situation at home. But only thing I feel is that guilt, idhar bhi nahi, udhar bhi nahi, that guilt should not be overpowering. And that can be fairly debilitating. Otherwise, you will not be able to move ahead only.
No doubt. I'm guilty of being guilty.
All of us are guilty of being guilty. But how much we are able to control that, how much we are able to navigate.
Absolutely.
Better.
I think you have to manage each day as it comes. And never be apologetic about who you are outside of your family and outside of your home. And I think I definitely firmly believe that you have to give time to who you are. Absolutely disconnected from your family, etc. But it's a balancing act always.
Absolutely.
Okay, now something on your money management, your personal money management. So you work in the investment industry. You also perhaps have your own investment portfolio, which you manage yourself. How do you balance the risk of your income coming from this industry, which can be very volatile? Because we know a lot of the fortunes of the investment management industry rely on the equity markets, which can get really volatile. You started work in 2008 or so, you had mentioned. So, you've seen that period. And then there's a personal portfolio as well, which if you hear everyone around you will tell you, equity and or anything which is adding risk will add return, maximize that kind of commentary is always on. So how do you kind of balance the risk in your personal portfolio, given this kind of background to what you're doing and where your income comes
Lisa,
from?
I think you learn this the hard way. I think as much as somebody tells you theoretically that X, Y, Z should be your asset allocation, people always learn asset allocation through their own journeys.
Okay.
I will tell you this thing. So I have always been a risk taker.
Okay.
While a lot of people find it difficult to believe that I usually come across as a conservative person, but I'm actually a huge risk taker. Like if you look at me, I've always loved equities, not just, of course, I talk about it all the time. Therefore, I have higher conviction. It's like the confirmation bias sort of thing. So, but even from early part of my career, I used to put almost all of my money in equities. And then, of course, I made money on it also. But then COVID happened. And, I realized that just before COVID had struck, I had got that year's bonus. And I had just invested everything in equities as usual. And then such a big, sharp correction came in. I had nothing available to buy my favorite asset class. This is where I thought, while I might have had allocation to other segments as well, but it was never meaningful. I realized that what is a requirement of having other asset classes, while risk appetite is one part of it, but the job is not just to maintain the volatility of portfolio, etc. It is also to see that when reallocation needs to happen, do you have another asset class to do that reallocation? Or you don't, you just put everything in one asset class. So I think it's a journey. People learn over a period, and I probably learned it the hard way. But I feel, being in an industry where you like you're saying, equities are most talked about, I still believe that in our long-term journeys, probably equity will be the asset class which will make you most money. The variable is whether you will stay invested or not. I think that is something that will really determine whether you'll end up making money on your money.
Right.
But I think I've been able to so far do it on my own. I do consider many times to go to a financial advisor, and I will probably sometime soon. But at the moment, I am being able to manage it myself.
But yourself, and you're happy to have, as you said, you have kind of learned to allocate so that you keep space for
absolutely. Now I stick to that.
When you want to reallocate, or obviously to cushion the volatility. But you are not so concerned about the riskiness, because maybe you're looking long term, right? And you understand that. So the riskiness of the asset class and the fact that you're working. Your income, in a sense, is tied to that asset.
It's like I as if I know the asset class better after my experience. And like things like gold, etc., I had not even considered investing. But I'm so happy at that time that realization came, and I took decent allocation, which in this cycle has made me. I probably wouldn't have had this if I didn't have that experience.
No,
this is all a function of how you learn to sort of allocate, reallocate.
And it's important in this last year, in 25, even a 10% allocation to gold, and that's all you really need. You don't, as you said, you don't need to go, to the extremes, but meaningful, which is in respect to the asset itself. Even that would have helped you have a consistent annualized portfolio kind of return.
Absolutely,
so I think this is also a learning journey, because so many assets
like
keep
I said,
coming.
People only learn with their own mistakes. It's all great to tell them what is it, and it's only experience which tells them that, okay, this is the impact. It is hard hitting when it happens to your own money. Otherwise,
when you see the red in your portfolio.
When you realize that, oh my God, actually, I was not unhappy to see the red. I was unhappy that I didn't have additional money to invest. While I have been talking about the fact that when corrections happen, accumulate units, etc., there was no liquidity to do that.
Maybe you felt like an imposter. What am I doing now?
Exactly. So it looked like, I'm just telling people something, not doing it myself.
But you did it then. You took the actions that you needed to.
That was a point. Like I said, it's not that I didn't have other asset classes earlier, but I didn't have meaningful allocation because I thought my favorite is equity and I stick to it.
Okay, one last thing. Since we're talking about money and your portfolio, do you tend to kind of invest based on goals? Have you defined your enough in a sense? We live in a world where the narrative is by and large around maximizing return, and I want to kind of check in with you when you are kind of making the decisions for your portfolio, what to invest, what not to. Is it goal based? Is it based on your enough, if you've kind of managed to define it, or are you happy to maximize return in a balanced way?
I think, when I look at it from my point of view, the enough that you are talking about, to my mind, the enough will be probably the time when I don't have to work for money anymore. I will be working because money is not the variable at all in terms of I don't have to, work because I need XYZ things in my life. I think when that financial freedom is how I feel is where if I reach there, I will feel that that's enough for me. I don't have, I'll tell you what I feel today, that a lot of people around us, I think wherever they have started off their journey, one of the things which gets most underplayed in journeys of investing is the power of compounding. Okay. I feel, power of compounding is always theory. It's always like, X became Y and Y over this period of that math is all that is there talked about. But then you see investments in the industry and, 45%, 50% flows move out within 2 years of investing into equity. Yeah. So how will you ever make that money? Yeah. Money is not just made by investing in the right product. It is made by staying invested long term. I feel that this is something that I feel whenever I invest, I usually try to see that the period is long term. That is how I have looked at it from day one. While there would be goals in mind, of course, like I wanted to buy a nice car, so I was saving up for it, and I saved up for it good 5 years. And when I could finally get that, while I was always, I loved my car, so my previous car, when I had to let it go, I was very upset. But when the new car came and I could, get it, I was so happy with it, because I feel for us to not depend on someone else for your dream coming true is the biggest compliment you can give yourself. Yeah, I think that's what I feel is probably a goal that I work towards. Yeah, I think in the long term, like I said, being committed to the investment and staying investment, I have seen that has made me most money. It is not so much of how much of that if you get your asset allocation right and stay invested, that will make you money. Not which scheme in 2 years did well or 1 year did well, last 1 year gold did well, therefore it should be 100% of my portfolio. All of that is all, it really misleads you in the journey. And like in life, it is important to cut out the noise. In investment also, it's extremely important to cut out the noise. And I think, again, this is something people realize over a period.
As you see things
happening. Yeah. So I think broadly, that's how I look at, the investments that I make.
Great. Thank you so much, Suranjana, for sharing all these details about your journey. And I can say that I've really enjoyed having this conversation with you.
Yeah, same here. Lovely conversation. And I think love the fact that we could talk. The chat was very candid, and really love that.
Well, yes. Remember, we spoke about authenticity.
Yeah,
that's important, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so that was Suranjana Borthakur. And right from being authentic, to showing up for herself, to nurturing relationships that matter, to listening deeply, to showing empathy, to cutting out the noise and compounding, whether it's in your investment portfolio or your profession. There is so much to learn from this leader. Thank you so much for listening into this episode. Stay tuned for the next one.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.